It's a dangerous town.
Are similar views shared by younger people at Park La Brea? Susan Becker and Jeff Spiegel moved here from New York 2 years ago.
Oh, I think it's a great place for having children. One of the best things is the fact that it has a lot of property and trees, so, you know, you feel you could take long walks, and the gating is really nice because at night, you know, there's a crime problem in any metropolitan city, but you do feel better living here because of the gates, and there's quite a amount of people around, and it's nice. There's a lot of families, though it's not that easy to meet people, which would be nice if, you know, we started having more activities with families and stuff, but I think it's a great place. If you're going to live in Los Angeles, I think it's a terrific place for having kids.
How does it compare with living in New York?
They're almost completely antithetical. You know, in New York, there's a whole street life which you're constantly involved with. You're constantly surrounded by theater, by people, by all sorts of activities. And here that doesn't exist. It's almost a very sort of cellular existence. You move from your home to your office to your restaurant. And so that whole sort of backbone of our day-to-day life has been, you know, missing. And that's something that I think after 2 years here, we're still very much trying to get used to.
30 miles down the freeway to the east, in Orange County, is Irvine, one of the outer cities of greater Los Angeles, where you see the increasing urbanization of suburbia. Almost hidden behind the Orange County Performing Arts Center and one of the largest shopping malls in America is the Noguchi Garden. Ed Soja describes some of the new urban forms that are emerging.
Well, you're looking at a wonderful reflective space tucked away in the middle of Orange County called the California Scenario. It's a garden that was created by a Japanese-American sculptor and artist, Isamu Noguchi. Buckminster Fuller described Noguchi himself. He called Noguchi the prototype artist of a new cosmos. And in many ways, we are sitting here in the center of centers of a primitive new urban cosmos, the creation of a very different urban form, a centralized, decentralized urbanization process that has created almost, as I say, a kind of competition to try to name this new thing. I've called it the outer city. I've also called it the exopolis, the city without. It's as I say, a dramatic change in the very nature of the urbanization process in this late 20th century, and it represents a major transformation in the way we look at cities. And in its most advanced form, we see it here and in the surrounding regions of Orange County. On one side, beyond the garden, outside the peacefulness of this reflective space, is the largest shopping mall in the United States in terms of sales. Behind us is the acme, the acropolis of outer city culture, a concentration of major cultural buildings, a theater, and the soaring Orange County Performing Arts Center. And everywhere around this place, you see the pretentiousness of the new centers, the new centrality. You will see street signs saying Center Drive North, Park Center Drive, a center here, Center Tower, Center Building. Again, the key to understanding the outer city is that it is amorphous. It doesn't have this pronounced downtown that we have come to expect of the traditional city. Here, there is no single downtown. I remember someone describing the experience of looking at the normal guide map where you see an arrow saying, "You are here." In this kind of new space, the equivalent is sort of seeing a guide map that is filled with arrows saying, "Here you are, this is the center." And in many ways, this becomes the center itself. This is the cosmic center of the California scenario. a sculpture by Noguchi himself called the Spirit of the Lima Bean. And in many ways it signifies, simulates, symbolizes the very nature of the outer city. The Segerstrom family continue to claim to be the largest lima bean producers in the United States. But as you can see, there aren't many lima beans around except the simulated lima beans here. The stones that compose this spirit of the lima bean were actually constructed in a Japanese village specialized in producing simulations from nature, taking objects, natural objects, and working them to make them appear even more natural than they were when they were found. In many ways, that is an indication of the nature of the urbanization process that you're seeing around us. The sculpture was done, I was told, by Noguchi himself with some assistance, but with the careful eye of one of the young sons of the Segerstrom family watching by and contributing to the creation of this artistic moment, this cosmic moment in the formation of the California scenario. And from, I think, this spot, we can march around the outer city, the Exopolis, and begin to see the new spaces, the variety of new spaces that underpin the formation of this dramatic transformation of the city that is taking place not only here in the United States, perhaps in its most advanced form in Orange County, but I would argue similar kinds of processes in their early stages are taking place in every metropolitan region of the world.
The 60-mile circle of Greater Los Angeles is ringed with a series of outer cities, some of which hold pools of immigrant labor for servicing the new, internationally financed high-tech industries. Others resemble Disneyland residential theme parks, such as the recreation of Cervantes, Spain, combined with Olympic sporting facilities at Mission Viejo. The issue of the control of bodies of people is as implicit here as in the Bonaventure Hotel. Developed and run by large corporations, they offer different versions of the California promise. Dave Celestine, the corporate vice president of the Mission Viejo company, financed by the cigarette company Philip Morris, describes the master plan.
Good afternoon and welcome to Mission Viejo, California, a master planned community of 10,000 acres, or in your language, 247,000 hectares. We purchased Mission Viejo in 1966. When we bought the property, it was dry, rolling hills that looked more like a desert than it did a cattle grazing area. We wanted to create a place that was a sense of place where people wanted to live, a community that was better than the cities that we found around us at the time we began our development. Our planning concentrated on doing some things differently. We wanted to assure that the people that lived here in the 30,000 homes that we would build had parks and recreation centers such as Lake Mission Viejo, the golf courses, we have 2, private and a public, to make sure that the parks and open space were in close proximity to the homes. We wanted to make sure that the commercial centers that provided the shopping is within at least 2.5 miles of all residents. We wanted to assure that our industrial centers that provided the job opportunities were in close proximity to the homes. It was to be a totally balanced community. Our goal has been accomplished. We have provided all amenities in this community so that you can stay here. You don't have to leave if you don't want to, although many do work outside the community.
I've lived here 12 years. It's a wonderful place to bring up your children. Our kids are very involved in sports. They play soccer and baseball right across the street here. We come down to the lake a lot for the concerts and picnics and sailing, fishing. My husband fishes here all the time.
Did you move here from Los Angeles?
I moved from Los Angeles, yeah.
Was it very different?
Very different, yeah. Yeah, we lived just outside of Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley, and it was very crowded and getting a little dangerous, I guess you'd say, to live there. And this is just wonderful to be down here. Yeah.
Some of the other things that we do within the community to assure that it stays and fulfills the California promise that we set out to accomplish was the strict architectural controls. We are one of the few communities in the nation who have a Kentucky Fried Chicken without the bucket rotating in the air.
We've always tried to pay a lot of attention to the appearance of the community. Go down the street, you see the landscaping is trimmed, the trees are trimmed. There's been a lot of special care and attention to that. And the way we try to keep our neighborhoods nice is we've set up homeowner associations. And when I, as a homeowner, move in, I get a set of rules. And I agree to those rules before I move in. And they may be such things as I won't work on my car out in the street where it will dump oil and grease on the street and offend my neighbors. I won't park a large RV right in front of their house. I'll agree that if I'm going to paint my house another color, I'll go to the architectural committee, which is made up of my own neighbors, and discuss it with them first, so I don't make it bright purple overnight and surprise anybody. And have some say-so. That architectural committee, blue or pale beige, and they said, gee, we don't want purple in our neighborhood. They could tell me, come back with another idea. We had one instance where a family put in a neon sign that says, Jesus loves you. And some of the neighbors complained to their association, and they said, could you talk to this neighbor? And they did, and they came up with a compromise. They would leave the sign in, but they wouldn't turn it on. So their neighbors working together, trying to reach some guidelines that keep the community nice.
Phil Riley, the first president of our company, said, what we build will not be perfect, but it will be a better place.
Mission Viejo is one of the factories of hyperreality, one of the many factories that have been landscape of the Los Angeles modern metropolis. It's a very different kind of hyperreality factory from the ones that we are already familiar with. The hyperreality factory of Hollywood, the dream machine, and of course the granddaddy of them all, Disneyland itself. With Disneyland, you visited it. You went into its space, its territory, and experienced the production of hyperreality, or what Umberto Eco called the real fake, the fake that is more real than reality itself. But now this production process, this making of hyperreality has escaped its old cages, its old spaces, and now has spread everywhere in everyday life, throughout the city, throughout the urban landscape. And Mission Viejo is one of the more successful and interesting of these examples.
Mission Viejo literally means old mission, and it takes its name from Rancho Mission Viejo, which was one of the original Spanish land grants. And the old mission was one of the original Spanish missions that was built by the Padres and then fell down, and it was rebuilt later in San Juan Capistrano. So we take that name as Old Mission Viejo, and so we took that heritage as a theme when we first started the community. And for the first 20 years, every street name and every home had a Spanish Mediterranean type style with the tile roofs or the traditional but stucco white look. Then about 5 years ago, when the market changed and people started to want more New England style and more traditional, a little French eclectic, then we started having different neighborhoods with some of those other characteristics. But still today, more than 75% of the community is Spanish.
This is producing a landscape and a society and a culture that essentially revolves around the image. The image is a substitute for a reality. The notion of the simulacrum that was developed by Jean Baudrillard, among many others, the construction of an exact copy of an original that no longer exists and perhaps never existed in the